Here's a short supplement to our discussion, our debate on Warsaw Debate about climate. Małgorzata and her guests.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being with us all the way from Delhi, from New Delhi. Professor Giri, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to ask you, you have a perspective from India. India is a very huge country, 1,400,000,000 people. All these people want to be rich. All these people are hungry to get success. And you are doing very well. You are the 5th largest world economy, and you will be the 3rd one in a few years. I want to ask you how you understand in India sustainable growth. What does it mean for you in practice?
In fact, there are two Indias, as you know. One is having a modern life or modern growth pattern, but there is another India which is very traditional, and they live the sustainable growth pattern because they live in nature and they use renewable energy, they follow the natural process, and so that is you're really living a sustainable life.
So you are saying it's not so distant from your mentality. You are fitting into this concept very well because you just understand it as keeping things as they were earlier, producing in a natural way, right?
Yes, yes, and that is still happening. And we are using a plural method. We are using also the modern technology in some selective sectors, but in the large number of sectors, we are still using the conventional methods. The mix of the two really make up for sustainable growth. We still have some problems with coal, and we are trying to replace it with the renewable energy, and we are heading the International Solar Mission. It's a hot country as well, you know. So International Solar Mission, and quite a bit of solar energy is generated now. And in our national plan for climate change, we have committed that by 2030, we would be using 50% of renewable energy instead of fossil fuel. So that
you are using already, I think, at the level of 40. So it's
yes.
You are doing very well.
Yes, and if you remember, during the horrible pandemic, our agriculture was not hit. There was no food inflation, and there was no shortage of supply of food. We were surprised how we had to study it ourselves. We saw that our farmers were insulated from the modern practices, and they continued to produce the food and vegetables. So that it has survived us, actually.
But in the same time, I have to ask you also, because you are very successful as a country to make your middle class larger. That's something which is really important because it means that many more people become richer. They are not really rich, but they are at least not poor so much as they used to be. Because India had this problem and still has. A lot of people are very poor.
Yes, yes, it is the largest country in the world in terms of population. Yes, we still have 20% or so people, so what do you call the below poverty line, which is unfortunate, but it is changing. And since 1990s, we went on a globalization mode that we understood, and then people have started growing, and the production also is growing, so things should change. And in terms of the normal growth, it is picking up, and then by 2030, as you were saying, we would be perhaps the 3rd largest economy, so it would be quite soon. And that is what is called trickling down also. We are spending quite a bit on welfare measures, and there is a food security policy.
But these are welfare measures. But let me come back to growth, because I would like really to understand this dilemma. We want to solve it somehow also in the West, that to be able to fight the climate, we also have to keep somehow the growth. You have also very large companies. India is known to have top businesses, you know, Tata, Mahindra, the family Ambani or Adani, top class business. What do they do to maybe, I don't know, limit themselves? Do they limit themselves, or do they produce as much as they can to make wealth?
Yes, so the green technology, and there is something called green growth, as you know, and green technology also will speed up the growth. And the one company that you mentioned, Adani, he is spending quite a bit, in fact, 50% of his investment in renewable energy, and particularly solar energy. So India is fast transitioning into green economy, really, and that's happening quite fast. And India is
so if I understand you correctly, you're saying that both your administration, your politicians, your government invest, but also the private businesses spend a lot of private money into this new sector of green technologies. Is it?
Oh yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Adani is the leading, he's the second richest man in our country, but he's the leading investor in solar energy and other renewable energy also. So India is fast transitioning into green technology and green production. And that should, and that does not really halt or hamper the growth process. So if there is a understanding or assumption that green growth is not possible, we'll have to follow the industrial, usual industrial pattern. I think India is proving it otherwise. We are not fully industrialized country, yet we are growing. We are not as industrialized as West or even China, but yet India's growth is up to 8%. It is because of the mix of the growth pattern and production pattern, and particularly focus on renewable energy.
This is an interesting observation also for us, that you can grow without really having extensive production. You can do it otherwise. But I would like you to comment, a part of being director in Schumacher Center, you are also professor of European studies, so you know Europe quite well. When you look at our policies towards growth or climate, how do you see them? Do you think it's wise what we are doing?
Well, countries like Germany have also gone in a big way to renewable energy. But in the West, yes, West is the leader in technology, but West also should embrace the principle of pluralism even in technology. So the small and medium sector, which is contributing to our growth and which is a very large sector, they should also be encouraged. In the West, I notice, Schumacher said small is beautiful, but the West, I think, believes that big is better. So that is a contradiction I notice. I think everybody should contribute, and every sector, big or small, should be able to contribute to the growth, what is called the participatory growth, and that would be sustainable, and that would, I think, spread the prosperity as well.
This is very much commented around the so-called Mario Draghi report, which is produced for the European Commission recently, which really shows how where we are in the European economy, and it shows why we are not competitive, but it focuses on the big. You are absolutely right. We are a little bit losing perspective on the small and medium-sized companies. But I want also to ask you about our targets. Europe wants to lead. We are very proud that we have all these very sophisticated climate policy objectives. Do you think it is realistic?
I think they are. The Europeans are good planners, and so I'm sure they would be setting realistic targets. So I have no doubt about that. But in their planning process, but I would say this perspective is emerging from Europe itself, that it has to be a mix of the West and the East. There is also a saying that democracy is not just from the Athens to Westminster to the Capitol Hill. There are lots of Eastern influence that make democracy rich. Likewise, there are many growth patterns in the East. They should also be looked at and to be adopted. Then this principle of pluralism, as I said, that would be good for everyone. So Europe is slightly reluctant in accepting the other practices from other parts of the world. That is what I would say.
In other words, you are telling us that we are not always better than the others, and we would like, maybe we should a little bit learn from elsewhere, like for example maybe from countries like India. Thank you very much, Professor, for your insights and for this interview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And more on this subject, for more on this subject, please follow us on our social media, tvpworld.com, and watch the latest episode of Warsaw Debate.